What's up, nerds? A new season is upon us and it's gonna be sick! All the new cards are cool as f, and not only cool, I think they're gonna have a pretty big impact on the future meta. We're gonna cover all the cards coming out, a bit of theory crafting on some deck lists that they might go in, the new variants that are coming out, the locations, and a bit more. So let's jump in with the season pass card, Daken. Daken is a 3 energy 4 power card that reads add the Muramasa shard to your hand. The Muramasa shard reads, when this is discarded or destroyed, double Daken's power. Considering it won't be hard to discard or destroy the Muramasa shard, we can assume that Daken is going to be a 3-8 pretty much every game that you play him. That's super good. I mean, Maximus is a 3-7 that comes with the drawback, and Dazzler is potentially a 3-8 that you have to meet like a pretty extreme requirement to get to 3-8. But I do want to start by saying I don't think you need to be cute with Daken or the Muramasa shard to make him good at all. I'm talking about like using Moon Girl to copy the card or destroying it multiple times somehow. In my opinion, yeah, sure, there's going to be decks that do that and get Daken up to a 316. But really, I like to think of this card like Thor, basically. Thor's a solid card. Nobody needs to get cute with Mjolnir to make it good. It's just a solid card that gets really good when you meet its requirement. So with that out of the way, let's think about where Daken would fit in. I think it's pretty obvious. The decks that everyone's probably considering are destroy decks, like pure destroy decks that would be running Deadpool, surfer lists, and discard lists. So I think we can just skip destroy and talking about destroy lists with Daken. That's just too obvious. The other type of deck that I think is interesting to talk about would be Surfer. So the Surfer lists pretty much all run Nova and Killmonger, so Daken with Muramasa shard just seems like an easy fit there. You could also actually even do like a Surfer Destroy list. So let's head to an example of what that list might look like. And what that deck would look like is this. You just replace the standard 2 drops in a normal Silver Surfer list with Wolverine, Bucky, and Carnage, and then all your 3 drops are either Surfer, Magic, or Destroy cards. This is a list I'm definitely going to try on day 1, and I think it's just a really safe, conservative way to play Daken and see if he's worth playing at all. Now when it comes to discard lists, there's always 1 or 2 slots in discard decks that are just really flexible and sometimes don't really matter what you run there. Also, the collector triggers when you put the Muramasa shard in your hand. So a discard list featuring Daken would look like this. Nothing too crazy here. Collector's more solid than it would be in the usual collector swarm type decks. Daken triggers collector. It also gets up to a 3-8 power easily. And you have Lady Sif and Swordmaster, and yeah, there's nothing really too much to say here. It's a discard list. It's got Daken. It's probably going to be better than the discard lists that are running around on the ladder right now. The next card in the season pass coming is Lady Deathstrike. Lady Deathstrike is a 5 energy 3 power card that reads destroy each card here with less power than this. I think this card is the hardest to evaluate and therefore maybe the one that everyone is sleeping on and ends up being really good, or it just ends up being complete trash. At first glance it seems very like meh, okay, maybe, I don't know. You could do some fun things here with this. But after thinking about it for a bit, you know, it might actually be alright. The best way to probably get Lady Deathstrike to do something really effective is Shuri into Lady Deathstrike. Even if you don't do any like Wong, Forge, Nakia, Okoye, anything like that, and you just go Shuri into Lady Deathstrike, that's a 5-6, and there's plenty of cards in the game that are under 6 power, especially on turn 5 before a 6 drop is played. But aside from buffing her up with some niche cards like the ones I just mentioned, she might end up being a meta-dependent card, much like Super Scroll. As far as deck lists go and the potential places you would put Lady Deathstrike, this is what I came up with. Pretty much a 0 Red Skull Shuri list, except for squeezing in Lady Deathstrike there. And we also have Scorpion and Spider-Woman. Now, they may seem a little weird and out of place, but I think it's kind of cool that you shrink the opponent's cards with Scorpion and Spider-Woman to make the cards that are able to be hit by Lady Deathstrike much broader. Now, I'm sure there's going to be other shells that use Lady Deathstrike quite well, and there's probably going to be some meme shells that use her pretty well. But I think something like this would be probably the most like, I want to say like boring, but just the most stable way to use Lady Deathstrike. Also, another card to consider here would be like Dr. Octopus. You could yoink stuff down into the lane and then play Lady Deathstrike on the last turn with a 1-drop like Titania. Next card up is X23, the card everyone is most hype about, at least it seems that way, and is probably justified. X23 reads, when this is discarded or destroyed, regenerate it at a random location with +1 energy next turn. So I personally think this card is great, and it's just going to be a staple in any destroy deck that is made from here on out. I don't see why you wouldn't run X23 in any sort of destroy shell. Also, maybe even potentially in discard lists as well. The 1 energy a turn in destroyed lists is going to let you play stuff like Deadpool without hurting your curve at all every single turn. And also it's going to let you play things like Null while still allowing you to do additional things. Usually the problem with Null in destroy decks is it's like that's your one singular play on the last turn of the game. But with X23 you can get it out on turn 5, or on turn 6 you can play Null and a Deadpool. Aside from that, it's just going to allow for some crazy plays that I'm sure no one is thinking about right now, and just opening up the deck building with the Destroy archetype in general. You're going to be able to do a bunch of stuff that none of us are thinking about. Now, as far as a deck to try when X23 comes out, this is not like mind-blowing or anything. It's this list. It's a Destroy deck with X23. So I would say X23 is going to be dope. And I don't care if it's 3K or 6K tokens, I would pick it up. Silver Samurai is up next, and Silver Samurai reads, each player discards the lowest power card from their hand. Note that it's power, not cost. I've seen a lot of people be like, well, you can't play this with stature or whatever. They're mixing up power with cost. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're thinking about deck building or whether or not this card is worth the tokens or just good at all. I personally think this card is being really underrated. I'm super stoked for it, probably more than Daken or Lady Deathstrike. X23 I think is the only other card I think that is as good as Silver Samurai, or has the potential that it does. First off, it plays well with Daken itself, but also quite well with Wolverine and X23 as well. So with stature, I don't like the fact that there's only one card in Black Bolt that you can enable it with. I mean, of course there's Moon Knight, but you don't want to run Moon Knight in non-discard lists. So I think just the existence of Silver Samurai is good just for that. I think Silver Samurai is going to enable different types of discard lists, like ones that aren't Dracula based. And also it might enable or allow for decks that aren't discard to play cards like Moon Knight, Swarm, and Colleen Wing. For example, this is a cool discard list that is not your standard discard list and is only able to be run now with Silver Samurai. And that kind of also allows discard to not just be strictly a point slam deck. Maybe you might win because you discarded a couple of their key cards and you blew something up with Gambit. Daken is here as well. Obviously, Silver Samurai will discard the Muramasa Shard, and then if it's not doing that, you're discarding a Swarm, a Wolverine, and probably X23 could even go in here. I just threw this together real quick, and with these example lists, I was kind of leaving out the other season pass cards because I just wanted to show examples of what the list would look like with only the card I'm talking about. But yeah, this list is going to be able to have stature run really easily. Moon Knight and Silver Samurai are going to enable it pretty well, and then you have Hela here to basically do like a sort of zoo sort of style deck where you're using discard cards to get a bunch of Swarms, a free Wolverine, and then you play Hela on the last turn of the game, resurrecting a couple of Swarms, maybe even the Muramasa Shard, whatever, that's not really that important. But then the rest of your cards are just overstated or have cool abilities. So let's just look over some of the variants real quick for this season. I think they're kind of cool. There's like a whole mech Japanese theme going on with some of the variants. But you got Atuma here. That's a cool one. I like it. I'm not going to say anything about Dan Hip because I'm not the biggest fan, but yeah, there's some few Dan Hips. The Cyclops is sick. You got a newer Bucky Barnes. But yeah, we'll just scroll through real quick. It's more Dan Hip. A lot of Dan Hip stuff coming out lately. The Kim Jacinto Brood is sick. This Daredevil is sick. The Cerebro's sick. It's all sick. Got this cool Red Skull medieval thing that's going on. A sweet Adam Warlock. But yeah, these are all really cool. You should head over to marvelsnapzone.com and check them all out. This Wolverine in the Conquest Metal Shop, this Wolverine's coming out. It's an anime variant. Looks a little funny to me. But anyways, those are the variants. Check them out on the website. So the first of the two new locations coming is Valley of the Hand. Valley of the Hand reads, after turn 5, your destroyed cards revive here. All I'm really going to say about Valley of the Hand is get ready for some Venom shenanigans for 48 hours or however long it is. And if you don't want to deal with that, definitely run Armor and Cosmo. But yeah, this is interesting. I think in a general rotation, seeing this on a daily basis when it's not a featured location is just going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. Some decks will benefit from it, some won't care at all. But for the featured and hot location days, I think it's going to be an absolute madhouse, something akin to like the Altar of Death hot location days. Next up, we got Yoshida Base. Yoshida Base reads, at the end of the game, destroy the last card to get here. It's a little weird. It's definitely an awkward location. To me, it kind of seems like a reverse Vormir, basically. I think it's the good type of location, much like Valley of the Hand. It makes you think a bit, but in the long run, I don't think it's going to decide too many games. But also, it could if someone plays it better than than their opponent. Yeah, as far as the featured and hot location when this pops up, you got me. I have no idea. You guys tell me what you think Yoshida Base would be good with. And as far as the overall rotation and playing it and seeing it on a daily basis when it's not featured or hot, I think it's perfectly fine. It's not going to change too many things. And it's just going to be one of those things pop up where you're like, oh, let me think about this for a second. Sort of like Vormir. So the couple of things we haven't talked about, the ranked season rewards and the bundles, we'll go over them real quick. Ranked season rewards, this is the card back that you get. I'm sure the non-infinite one is just not going to have the gold. But anyways, it's cool. I like it. Probably be using it a lot more than some of the other ones. And as far as the bundles go, you can check them out. I'm not going to go through each one. I'm not really the type of person who buys bundles or cares too much about them. But all the info you need on whether or not you need to save or maybe budget a little bit because there's some sick stuff coming, check them out on marvelsnapzone.com. A lot of them are like mecha based / some sort of Japanese inspired art, like this Black Widow one here. Actually, these two look really cool. But other than that, yeah, check them out on marvelsnapzone.com. I'm not going to go through each bundle and tell you if it's good or not. You figure that out. But yeah, to summarize, I think this season is super awesome. I am really excited for it, probably more than any other season that's come, just for the cards alone. And I would say almost every card aside from Lady Deathstrike is an absolute must buy. Of course, if you hate playing destroy or discard, I'm so sorry, this season is not going to be fun for you. But for every other normal person that's watching this video, save up your spotlight caches, because yeah, I think, like I said, everything is a must buy except for Lady Deathstrike. You can probably skip on that one. But, you know, I don't know, maybe it's super good and it affects the meta way more than I think. What are your thoughts? Let me know on all the stuff, all the cards. Leave them in the comments section below. But for now, that's all I got. See you in the next video. Later, nerds.